and Samson here. Don't know how long this will be. I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm going to wing it. As always, there's so much to cover, and my testimony story is always being expanded upon, not for what it does for me. I mean, it is kind of cathartic and therapeutic just talking about things, but mostly it's to help others because I'm not the type of person, at least I'm not anymore, who can live with a conscience that can live with a guilty conscience. What am I trying to say? That when you have information that could help others, you should pass it along. That's our obligation in this world, is to try and help those who are coming behind us. And if we were all doing that, then we would have, I think, a better, well-balanced, mentally and spiritually society. But that's just my opinion. I am not an expert nor an authority as far as the healthcare industry goes, though I did work in it. I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice nor medical advice. This is part of my testimony, and this is researching together to become more educated and informed about what is going on around us and in our reality. Let me make sure comments are on. Hi there, whoever it is. So this is going to be a few different things. You guys know this is how I operate. I try to bring things to the surface and expose them, the evil things that we have in our society, though not people. I don't believe in doing that unless it's a court of law and, you have evidence to back up what you're saying. Most of what I'm saying is my own personal perspective from my own personal story. I would not try to tell anyone else's story or speak for them, but it's not narcissistic. Again, this is how I feel like I can best help other people at this time, is by telling them things that I'm experiencing and putting that analytical brain that I have to some good use, and not just to causing my own self-anxiety. Anyways, so I've been putting things together. I've been really examining things like alien abductions, sleep paralysis, and how much they have in common with being put under anesthesia. And nobody talks about these things. Nobody tries to say, wait a second, maybe it's not aliens doing this. Maybe this is part of our own military industrial complex doing these things to its own citizens for the purposes of experimentation alone, is the sad thing. A lot of it is just for experimentation purposes only. And to get you in the right frame of mind, I want to use a couple examples here. So science will tell you that DNA doesn't lie, right? And I've been watching Dateline a lot, and my spiritual discernment is just off the chain anymore. It is, I'm seeing that the guilty appear to be innocent, the innocent appear to be guilty. I'm seeing a lot of people banking off of other people's tragedies. And I'm seeing a lot of law enforcement not asking basic questions that used to be asked. It used to be the first person they went to was the family members in cases of murder and things like that. And they looked at life insurance and payouts and saw who had what to gain. They don't do that anymore. Even David Paulides, and this is my own opinion, which we're still allowed to have. It's not slander. It's my own perspective from watching his channel. He will leave you hanging and let you think it's something supernatural and not even use his caught brain and tell you, okay, oftentimes it's the family, oftentimes money is a motivational factor. And again, you guys know I believe in the supernatural, I believe in the spiritual, but I believe everything begins there, and the things we're seeing manifest now are the symptoms of our spiritual sickness as a society as a whole. And these things need exposed. People, and they're ugly and uncomfortable, and we don't want to hear about them. But when you expose things to the light, it has a purifying effect. And once people cannot hide certain things anymore, and there's diagnostics done, just like when working with a car, you can then logically figure out how to approach the problem and come up with solutions. And I don't think there's enough people talking about solutions today in our society. It's just bogging people down with, okay, we have this worry, we have this concern, this is evil, this is wicked. And me, for example, I'm always wanting to move, but is moving really going to change the problem that we have in our society? Is that going to make things better for me or anybody. No, not really. Change of location doesn't usually do that. Again, we have to pull these things out by the roots, and they have to be exposed so that they're purified. So science will tell you that DNA never lies, right? And so now we have all these people being released from prison. They're allegedly innocent, and they have all this DNA. Have you ever watched how they collect DNA, by the way? Somebody will take a drink of something, throw it in a trash can, and then they'll go get it. I don't even think I don't even think DNA works that way. I don't think you can get it. You need enough of an amount to actually process, right? You have to be able to process the DNA. And even when you do a DNA test, there has to be a certain amount of skin cells, right, or mucus taken on a swab, and then it has to be sealed and vacuum sealed, and it has to be processed, right? In order for it to be processed, because in that process of processing the DNA, it breaks down. Okay, again, I'm no science expert. I'm trying to get you in a proper frame of mind for what we're going to talk about. DNA might not lie, but men do. Women do. And we have a lot of corrupt people right now wanting criminals on the streets. We have a lot of corrupt people, maybe who were threatened, who were extorted, who were blackmailed into doing certain things that are illegal and wicked and nefarious and against natural law, because maybe their families were threatened. Maybe their jobs were threatened. Maybe their lifestyle was threatened. Maybe their life was threatened. We have a lot of people being controlled by fear. And I'm not going to be one of those people. I promised that I would always tell you the truth as I found it, as I saw it, as much as I could. And so that's what I'm attempting to do again. DNA might not lie, but men do, for a lot of different reasons. Just like cancer, we say that, how could God let such a thing come along? Do we really know that? Do we? A doctor can show us an x-ray and tell us whatever they want. We don't know. We didn't go to medical school. Maybe it really is just a shadow from the developing process of the picture. You don't know these things because we believe men who we are told have authority, who we are told because they wear a white lab coat, or because they wear a blue uniform and a gold star, or because they wear a green uniform that says USA on it. We think these people are the good guys. This is what we've been led to believe. Everything's inverted here. Everything. Now, I don't know if I was so traumatized from waking up the way I did, because a lot of you know I also feel like a spiritual rapture took place. I feel like something happened to people. I didn't see any of those comments, guys. If you could bump them up, that'd be great. If you could just type bump, then I can see them and reply. Anyways, so if you look at these things, and we're going to look at false memories. There's a reason for this. If you look at going under anesthesia, if you've ever had an operation, if you've ever had dental work, and they do what's called a twilight on you, it's not full anesthesia. You can kind of see and hear what's going on, but you're paralyzed basically. So I've been thinking sleep paralysis, alien abductions, anesthesia. They all have very similar stories to them. The alien abductions sound like sleep paralysis, right? You kind of wake up, you're kind of in a haze. It's almost like a dream. You know what's happening, but you can't stop it. You're powerless to stop it. You can't move your own body. There are drugs that do this to people. And I know people want to believe in aliens. I get it. You want to not believe we're alone here. And I'm not saying that aliens don't exist. I'm saying first and foremost, when we're approaching these situations, you have to use logic and common sense first. Supernatural comes last. That's the same thing I say about the Mandela effect. People don't believe us, and they instantly dismiss us as crazy if we say, well, the Ford icon used to be different. Yeah, that's called marketing and branding. Well, Ellis Island is where the Statue of Liberty was. Did you know that they actually renamed it? It used to be called Liberty Island. It doesn't mean the Statue of Liberty was swapped. It just means we change the names of places all the time. We have to approach things with a logical, practical eye first. Then you can say, okay, I'm out of explanations. I don't know what this could be. This is something beyond our understanding. This is how a well-balanced individual should operate. Our enemies and wickedness and evil and darkness appears to be winning because a lot of good people have already given up the fight. Well, it's too hard. What can I do? What can one person do? Those are defeatist words. You don't want to speak them. You shouldn't speak them because already you're defeating yourself. Already you're defeated. You know that if you go into a sport and you go into a game or a competition in the wrong headspace, that you will not do well. You won't succeed. We have to approach these situations and these events and these problems with a practical mindset first. Because in my opinion, the big umbrella to all this is organized crime. And then you have racketeering and money laundering, because that launders the money, literally. They call it that because they make it clean. Basically, you have a fake front for a business, right? Maybe you're a pimp. Maybe you're running game that way, right? But you have a front, a false business, a facade that makes that money look clean, okay? So you have organized crime at the top, and underneath that, you have things like racketeering and money laundering. Why do they launder the money? Because of trafficking, because of buying and selling of people, because of slavery. And it's still happening today. But nobody wants to talk about it. It's not going to get fixed if nobody talks about it. Well, I won't be here in 20 years. What do I care? You should care. We should all care. It's honestly very disturbing, the lack of the apathy in people at this point in time is disturbing. And if you're not disturbed by it, I'm probably not going to be the type of person you want to talk to. Because I don't know what it's going to take at this point. People are going to need to be shamed. They need to feel shame again. Our young people are lost. They think that this ghetto OG lifestyle is the way to go. They think that they're going to make money off their bodies and off of their social media. What happens when y'all get old? What happens then? I know what happens. I was basically, my family wanted to turn me out because I got older. Time for a younger model, right? And I'm not controllable anymore. They can't control me because God is above me now. So I don't really I'm harder to manage, right? They don't want you if God is at your helm, because then you know what true freedom really is. Even if your body isn't free, your mind and your heart and your soul is free. They don't want people to know this. They don't want you to be empowered. They don't want you to know what's going on. This is why we have to approach these things with a logical, practical mindset first. Or people aren't going to listen. They just won't listen. They'll dismiss you as crazy right off the bat. And I don't understand why these things aren't making sense to some people. I still have that one person constantly sending me emails about how the maps have changed, how this has changed, how that's changed. Unless you get up into a plane and everything looks different from up there, you can't say, well, oh, the United States changed because that map's different. People, it's called cartography. We're trying to progress and improve things as we learn more about them, right? So of course the maps will change, and they'll change anyway due to erosion. We have to be ready for these arguments. Basically, what this is called is apologetics. When you want somebody to be swayed or influenced to your side of thinking, or at least to see from your perspective just for a moment or the purposes of a debate. I'm just really disturbed. I'm very disturbed lately. And I know that all this started for me because I stumbled upon some information that I probably wasn't supposed to know, and I was supposed to be stupid, and I wasn't supposed to put things together. My enemies severely underestimated my brain and my resilience. So I'm passing that along in the best way that I can. Trafficking is a huge problem in the United States, and I've been saying it since way before that movie came out. I deleted over 4 years of content just to try and get these people to lay off me a little bit, because I do have family that I love. But I'm like a pariah now. Nobody will come near me. Every time I say anything even slightly critical about this town or anyone in it, I pay out the wazoo. Something bad happens to me or to my pets. Does that sound normal to you guys? I even begged my audience. Where can I go? Is there some other place where I can just go and be free and independent? Is there somewhere that I can move? People don't want to help each other anymore. If you have a lack of charity, I'm sorry, you don't know Christ. You can't call yourself a Christian And I don't mean money. I don't mean throwing money at people. I mean being an ear, a shoulder. Heck, giving someone a bed or a spot on your floor for a few nights so they can figure something else out. That's what we should be doing. We should all be watching each other's backs, and things like this would not be happening. There would not be the sale of children. There would not be the dismissal of wives because they get a little older. There would not be the dismissal of family members because maybe they choose a different lifestyle. I'm at a loss. I'm working. I knew more of these strange occurrences would happen when I was faced to deal with more people. And I knew I shouldn't take the job. I had a feeling I should not take the job because the woman that suggested that they were hiring and encouraged me to apply, she worked at the magical consignment shop for a little while. She was the one that told me to wear a mask, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. And I left there, which I usually don't. It's my favorite shop, and I love spending the money that I do have locally. I think that's important as well. But she had an issue with me, and I knew I shouldn't take this job, and now she's kind of like punishing me because she's my boss now. And a few things have happened already that don't make any sense. Now, I guess when you're a cashier, you have a machine and it weighs the money. It weighs it. It'll tell you how many bills are there. It'll tell you how many coins are there. Problem is if the wrong bill's in the wrong section, it doesn't know a 1 from a 50 or a 100. My drawer's been off a couple of times. And I'm a girl who worked at a financial institution. I worked at a bank. I've dealt with registers since I was 10 years old and my mom had her own business. It's not normal for me. So I said, you know what? Let me just count the money. I need to count it myself. Oh, no, you can't do that. What do you mean I can't do that? Machines break down. They break. Why can't I count the money myself? I'm sitting right here in front of you. Oh, no, we can't do that. Did everybody forget that we created the machines? When did they start telling us what to do? Does that make any sense to anyone else? No, you can't count your own drawer to see what the total is. And no, you can't see your journal tape to see what total you're supposed to have. I've never worked another registered job that's been like that. We always handled our own journal. We always highlighted, the total or circled it and for the cash, and then you put it into the deposit bag at the end of the night or what have you, or the safe. Never in my life have I worked at a place where you couldn't just count your drawer. And I was a cosmetics manager. Sometimes I had anywhere from 3 to 5 drawers I was in charge of every night. But I'm supposed to sit back and just let all this happen, right? Because that's normal, right? That's how the world should work now. And everybody is a pushover. Everybody tells you, no, just deal with it. That's how it is now. You just got to deal with it. Why? Why is it that way? Why do we have to deal with it that way? I don't understand these things. So yesterday I waited on a gal. And I liked her accent, and she said, oh, I speak French, I speak German, and she was an older lady, and I love old people, I just do. And I told her about my garden and how the only thing I can't seem to grow is lavender. And we've talked about this. We've gotten into the Nephilim lore, and one of the things that apparently they don't abide by is real, true lavender, a lavender plant. It's the only thing I can't grow. Anything else I can grow, I can't grow that. I've told y'all I'm basically in Jericho. What was Jericho? Jericho was a Canaanite, what do I want to call it? City. Canaanites were giants and allegedly cannibals as well. That's pretty much where I'm at, is Jericho. They don't want me leaving. And then again yesterday, I said, I just don't want to be here anymore. And a loved one that I love very much was trying to say, oh, what do you mean? You don't want to be here on earth anymore or just in this place? They're literally trying to get me to consent to my own doom again, to my own end, to my own deletion, termination. Because then they can say, well, she said we could do it. She consented. And allegedly, we've looked at this too, the lore with skinwalkers. The way to become one of those is to sacrifice a family member. I know this stuff sounds crazy. I know it does. And you're going to say, what does this have to do with all this? I'm not saying aliens aren't real. I believe in spiritual realm. I believe in the supernatural. But I don't think it's aliens is what's happening to people, because my experiences were pretty much the same. Only instead of aliens, it was fallen angels, because that's my paradigm. That's what I believe in. So did they just want me believing that I'm dealing with fallen angels? Or is it legitimate? Are they actually these beings? I don't know. But our approach should always be the same, no matter what's happening. If it's the end of days, if it's not the end of days, we should always conduct ourselves and operate in the same manner. We should operate from our conscience. Don't do anything against our conscience. And we should do our best to do no harm, especially at this point, because so many of us have suffered like great loss. I've heard some stories from people that I don't know how they're so resilient. I don't know how I was so resilient and I've bounced back. I'm not handling the lies anymore. I'm not. Like, they're literally trying to get me to consent again to, like, say out loud or something that I wish to do myself harm, which I do not. I have no desire to harm myself or anyone else. I have hope for the future. I would like to see things that I never got to see, that other people have. Everybody else gets to go to the national parks. Why don't I? Most people have seen the Grand Canyon. Why didn't I ever get to go west? And yeah, I do think something very bizarre is going on in my life, because everybody seems to know my business. Like I said, anytime I say anything negative about this town or the people, something bad happens to me. But again, I'm just speaking truth. Things can't get fixed until they're exposed, right? You can't fix a thing if you don't know what's broken on it. What are false memories? Because I'm seeing this a lot now. Now they're saying, oh, well, that's not a real memory. That's just a false memory you had. Again, this is all about cover-up. Isn't it funny how when dogs get a bone, they want to bury it, right? Human beings have that same tendency. We want to bury or cover up ugliness and the nastiest parts of ourselves. But they can't get fixed until they're exposed. You have to know you're sick to accept the cure. But now they're saying that a lot of these things don't happen, that these are false memories. You know my stance on that. I had an instance where I was drugged in my home, where I should be safe, where I pay to live. And things happened to me in my own bed that should have never happened. And then I'm lied to about it. Oh, that didn't happen. You're imagining that. I went to the police. I had bruises on the backs of my legs that were huge. I got in the shower and I was like, oh my God, it really did happen. It wasn't a dream. I really was held down and things done to me. Because see, they don't want you to remember these things. The fact that some of us remember, that wasn't planned. We're not supposed to have these impressions. So now they're just going to say, well, they're false. They're not real memories. That didn't actually happen to you. I had the proof all over my body. And a woman knows when she's been violated. I'm so sick of the incels and the misogynist attitudes in this place. I don't know what's happening. But the female is being severely degraded at this point. Because Mary brought Jesus into the world. That's why wickedness hates women. We help to give life. We are co-creators. It's not our imagination. We actually do that. Our fall from Eve was redeemed through Mary's grace. But they still want to oppress us and repress us. Can't talk about what's happening. Can't talk about Fight Club, right? Wrong, because I do. I don't care who sees the video. I don't care if only one person sees it. If that one person is given courage and encouragement to change their own situation or to help somebody else who's in a similar situation, then it's a good work that I've done with the help of God, of course. False memory is a fabricated or distorted recollection of an event. You see, because I believe that there are corrupt people in every group. And I believe that the corrupt cops, the corrupt psychiatrists, the corrupt military, I believe they're all using certain drugs to fabricate these abduction experiences. They don't want to tell people that they're operating in the occult. The Army did a very big push a few years back. I remember the ads where they were showing how Satanism was a recognized religion within the military and that you could join the military if you were a Satanist. Again, they're exposing themselves to, they think, loosen themselves from this karmatic debt that they will owe. They're trying to avoid natural law. It can't be done. Trying to avoid the Creator. It can't be done. You really think you're smarter than the one who made you? We're not. I mean, that's just the truth. Much like a child, I'm sorry, no matter how arrogant you are, a child does not know as much as their parent because they don't have that life experience. They just don't. I'm dealing with the same thing with one of my sons right now, and I have been for a while, and it's going to be a pretty big fall for him. If he is still him in there, and I don't know what to think. Either I never knew anybody, or there was some type of spiritual rapture. My family, they eat different now. They have different eating habits. Like, everything's different. Not just things that are like in my own imagination or whatever. But again, you don't have people believing you because you're a woman. You don't have intuition. You don't know what you're talking about. There's no such thing as gut instinct. How do you think a mother protects her young for so long? There's a special connection between a mother and their child. Women have that. We feel it. We know if our child is in trouble, even if they're not near us. That's what God gave us. And I'm tired of it being denied. I'm tired of hearing, oh, well, you're crazy. And I'm really tired of the lower level intelligence that this is all operating under. I mean, nobody's asking questions. Well, DNA doesn't lie. No, but men do. Men do lie. You see where I'm coming from with this? Sure, there might be aliens out there. Sure, I believe there's angels. And I believe that the people who are carrying out these nefarious things are doing it from the occult, and they're doing it with help from darkness. Those things don't have bodies. Why do you think the little gray aliens, they don't look real? They look like synthetic, and we'll never actually, quote unquote, see an alien close up because it's never going to be a good enough job. These things don't have corporeal bodies, carnal flesh. They need that. That's why possession occurs. I don't think they need clones. They have plenty of people right here. If they want to take them over, they can. It has to be an organic body, and usually it has to be one from the same bloodline. I know all of this just from being around it, and because I'm vigilant in my studies and research. So now you have psychiatrists jumping on the bandwagon for these false memories too. They want to tell us, oh, well, they never happened. What's a symptom of a false memory? False memory OCD is a subset OCD that can cause people to doubt memories about their past. Research suggests people who have a history of trauma, depression, or stress may be more likely to produce false memories. Isn't it funny, though, that the trauma these same people have with these alleged false memories, the trauma is caused by this event. The trauma to our spirit and our brain is caused because we have missing time and because things happen to us or through us against our consent, and usually against our knowledge. Example of a false memory: believing that you locked the door before leaving home when you didn't, remembering a word or item from a list that was never presented because it was similar to the presented items, confusing the source of information, such as believing a dream event happened in reality. That was updated 6 days ago. And again, we know about Google. We know not to trust the first few links. We know all about this, right? I use Google to prevent the videos and the content from being obscured and censored. They can't censor themselves. Google and YouTube are the same entity, basically. But it gives you a place to start. You know what to look for then. If you want to use Cake or Brave, I use Brave and Cake both. Sometimes I use DuckDuckGo, but that one I obviously don't really care for either. False memories can have a wide range of effects. Mistaken or distorted memories can affect day-to-day life, leading to mistakes at work, home, and in other important areas. How to test a memory. The Dees, Roediger, and McDermott task is a false memory paradigm in which subjects are presented with lists of semantically related words, nurse, hospital, etc., at encoding. After a delay, subjects are asked to recall or recognize these words. Okay. False memory is a psychological phenomenon whereby an individual recalls an actual occurrence substantially differently from how it transpired or an event that never happened. Let me be clear about this too. I think they do certain things to cover up other things that they've done. I think that they're going to say you're having false memories because maybe some of us actually remember losing time in our psychologist and or counselor's offices, which we never consented to being hypnotized or anything of the like. So they have to come up with these things, right? To cover their own, you-know-whats, their own behinds. However, I will also say that it's very easy to put a false memory inside of someone when they are under hypnosis. All it takes is a simple suggestion and you have the capacity for a false memory to occur. So again, there's two sides of this. You have to be very careful because it is a real thing. But the ones telling us about it are the ones who are doing it. And this is what I try to tell you about YouTube. Most YouTubers will tell you I was in the military. Well, if you were in the military, number one, why are you being so disloyal and outing them now? And you have millions of subs. There's something wrong with that picture. They're not doing anything out of the goodness of their hearts. They tell us who they are. And if we don't believe them, that falls to us, and that's our own fault. Just like that poem Trump read. You knew I was a snake when you let me in the door. And that's what they're going to say about all this. That we knew it was going on, and we allowed all of it to happen. Much like we say of God. Well, if God allows it to happen, God depends on people down here with hands and feet to do his work and mouths to speak his word, to speak truth. And pastors often get this mixed up. They say the only truth is Jesus. I'm not disagreeing with that, okay? What I'm saying is that more than one thing can and often is true, right? I have brown hair and brown eyes. Both of those things are true. Jesus is also true. When the Bible says we should be truth seekers, that's also a command on how to operate and live your life. We should be exposing the darkness so that the things in the dark can be fixed. That is truth. When you speak truth, whatever that truth may be, you're empowering something or someone or some ideal or some concept or person, individual. Okay? I hope you're following along with this. So again, yes, there is true science that is observable, testable, and repeatable. That's true science. That's not pseudoscience, okay? That's real science. And no, science should not lie. Math doesn't lie. Sacred geometry usually doesn't lie. Those things stay the same. We can count on those things to stay the same, right? Oh gosh, my doggy's barking. Never fails. So, what do all these things have in common? I want you to look at something. And, let's do this. Memory formation during anesthesia. Now, I'm just now looking this up. I just now put those words together. I did not look this up previously. This is how you use spiritual discernment. You're in prayer, you're in meditation. For a while on a certain topic, something comes to you. Some people call these downloads now. But something will come to you from the ether, from God, the creator, whatever you want to call it. Higher consciousness. Okay? And then you check that. You test the spirit of that thing. So I had a suspicion that false memories had a lot to do with anesthesia because I worked in healthcare and I have been under anesthesia more times than I care to say. Memory formation during anesthesia, plausibility of a neuropsychological, and this was from 2015, which is good. Anything from 2017 and before, I don't want to say, is totally reliable, but to me is more reliable than anything after that. This relationship is useful to conceptualize false memory. Complexities of human memory, relevance to anesthetic practice. Okay. Can anesthesia cause memory issues? I knew an old woman who was only at the home for therapy. She had busted her hip. But other than that, she was sharp as a tack. 90 years old. She was the grandmother of one of my coworkers. Awesome family. She came out of anesthesia. She could not even remember her name. Old people should really not be put under anesthesia because they do not come back the same. That's my opinion. That's my perspective from seeing a lot of this happen. So I know anesthesia already causes neurological issues. I've seen it. But are they causing these false memory issues? If you're under anesthesia, is it similar to being hypnotized? You see, because again, I started thinking of all these things. The paralysis, the experience that I had where I could hear and see and talk, but I couldn't move my body because they were asking me question after question after question, and something was injected to me, probably sodium pentothal or something like, not sodium pentothal, whatever that alleged truth thing is. I've seen all of these things happen, and that's why I talk about them, because I know if it's happening to me, then it's happening to someone else, somewhere else. We are not unique in the things that we endure in life. We just go through the same cycle at different times. That's why we should be helping each other through it. Short-term memory disorder following surgery and anesthesia is a common complication of anesthesia and a common complaint of the patients. What anesthesia makes you not remember? This is the one I talked about earlier. This is when you get dental work done, certain surgeries, or what do we call it? Certain practices, certain procedures. Twilight anesthesia, I've been under that a few times myself, is an anesthetic technique where a mild dose of sedation is applied to induce anxiolysis, anxiety relief, hypnosis, and anterograde amnesia, inability to form new memories. The patient is not unconscious, but sedated. Let's look at that, because something there bothers me. Is that the snake around? Of course it is. Twilight anesthesia is an anesthetic technique where a mild dose of sedation is applied to induce anxiety. Anxiolysis? Okay, so applied to induce anxiety relief or hypnosis. Okay, so they're saying that basically when you go under twilight anesthesia, it is a form of hypnosis. Okay? The patient is not unconscious but sedated. During the surgery or other medical procedures, the patient is under what is known as a twilight state, where the patient is relaxed and sleepy, able to follow simple directions by the doctor, and is responsive. Generally, twilight anesthesia causes the patient to forget the surgery and the time right after. But some people do. Not all people, right? The exception to the rule is what proves the rule. Not all people, like me. I remember that certain things that occurred, and I know some of you do. This is how we get stories of the alien abductions. So let me ask you this. Are they put under anesthesia, which is basically like a hypnotized state? Are they put under that and then told a story perhaps about an alien? And why do people see the owl face instead of... I gotta let my dogs out, I'm sorry. Why are people seeing the owl face in place of the alien? Well, they say that's a false memory so that people will forget the alien experience. I actually have a different idea about that. A long time ago, back in the day, owls were a symbol for wisdom. It's also allegedly what they worship at Bohemian Grove. But if you look at it, it's actually looks a little different. Hang on one second, guys. Why are you guys being so naughty? Go on, go potty. Go. I'm sorry. I'm a regular girl. I don't have a YouTube studio. Just a phone in my home. Okay. So, riddle me this. Let's say you want to run a game on someone, okay? Run game. Basically, you want to fool them, right? You pick a mark, somebody who is naive, gullible, not necessarily uneducated or not smart or wise. They just are easily manipulated, especially when they're under a sedation like that. And some people are that way. I know I was for a very long time. Until I kind of started catching on to what was going on and that I didn't have my own sovereignty anymore. somehow I was not in control of my own self. That's why we talk about consent and sovereignty on this channel. I don't want anyone to ever go through what I went through because it is completely preventable. They knew that I caught on to some information that I was not supposed to know, I was not supposed to have. So did they run game on me, trying to scare me into behaving a certain way so that they could continue to manipulate me? Because some people are said it's aliens, some people are told it's angels. Potato, potato, tomato, tomato. Does it really matter? Yeah, it kind of does. But again, we should always operate from the same state. So why don't you go and do a little homework? Look up some of these alien abductions. Look up some instances of sleep paralysis. See what you come up with. See how similar they are. See how close they are. And by close, I mean visualize it in your mind. Most people don't do that anymore. My dad was big on visualization. He said, Jen, picture yourself hitting the ball and you'll hit the ball. Very simple. When you read a book, you should visualize what you're seeing. So if I tell you that I was in a chair, that I seemed to be strapped down, but I was still in my home, I felt like I went up to some other place, right through the roof, but that's when things kind of took on a dreamlike quality. But I mean, who would know the difference? How do you find this stuff out, especially if the psychiatric industry is involved in it and they're trying to cover up their own crimes? So we got people everywhere playing with people's brains like that's okay. Now again, I'm not saying aliens aren't real. I'm not saying angels aren't real. I'm saying first, you go to the logical conclusions. Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the truth. Usually. Not always, but usually. Okay. Several factors are taken into consideration when determining which level of anesthesia is used, under which type of medical procedure. This is where the stalking comes in. If your weight is not known, if your height is not known, if some of your medical history is not known, those are unknown variables that the people who do this cannot have, right? So first they have to know how much you weigh so they know how much anesthesia to put you under with, okay? They don't want to kill you. They just want to be able to manage you. And again, I don't think they can kill us in the way that we've been taught. I think it's a lot. I've worked in healthcare. Our bodies are not nearly as fragile as we seem to think they are, or we're told that they are. So, while the patient is under unconscious sedation by anesthesia, depending on the type and dose administered, they are in a state that is called twilight. What are the drugs and technology used to do this, though? Well, let's take a gander. Hold, please. I'm going to let my dogs in, so I'm going to try and pause the mic for a minute so I can let them in and you don't have to listen to all the jingling and jangling. I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that, guys. Lay down, buddy. Had to make my way back to Sammy here. All right. So I hope you see where I'm going with this. When you read a story, you should be visualizing it in your mind. And I started to get the feeling that sleep paralysis, alien abductions, and anesthesia before surgery all looked very similar in my mind's eye. The stories sound much the same. People kind of remember in a hazy way what occurred, but not exactly, and not enough to control themselves or even to say, no, I do not consent. Some of the drugs used in general anesthesia are also involved for twilight, except in smaller doses and in a bolus interval, a concentrated mass of a substance administered intravenously for diagnostic or therapeutic purposes. Okay? These drugs can be administered via gases. Let me remark here that there are TIs over in Q-Aura that talk about strange smells in their homes, and they pass out immediately thereafter. So this is something that is being talked about and murmured about. I cannot state if it's a fact or not. I know that I have severe trouble sleeping anymore. I cannot fall asleep on my own anymore. And I think that comes from PTSD, you know? You're always vigilant. You're always on guard to make sure nobody's coming out to, you know, harm you or kill you or hurt someone you love. So, ketamine, which is a big one in pediatrics and infrequently in adults. Propofol and midazolam. I've heard of propofol, but midazolam's new. Twilight anesthesia alone is not used to provide relief from surgical pain. Therefore, it's always given in conjunction with a local or regional anesthetic. Additionally, IV sedation is frequently administered as a concoction of several agents, including those previously mentioned, for induction and maintenance of anesthesia. It's what keeps you asleep, right? When they're operating on you, so you're not rolling all over the place like you might in a dream situation, right? It keeps your body totally still. Your mind is still okay. You're in like a dreamlike state. So do you see how this can get confused with other things? Yeah, these are big, and these are things people are talking about now. And now we have another one. And a narcotic system analgesic such as Demerol or fentanyl. Boy, isn't that strange? We got a fentanyl problem in our country now. I wonder how that happened. Isn't that something how, again, all of this stuff is connected? I do get a little weary of like proving myself to everybody. And I nobody asks me to, but I do it because I have a channel here and that's my response. I take that as my responsibility, is to bring you information that appears to be correct or true, or to at least allow us to search for that information to see if it's out there and it exists. That's my responsibility. And I don't think enough creators of this content understand that responsibility. They just look at it as a job. These people just want to get paid. And then they say, well, I'm unmonetized. I lost $27,000 last month. Are you kidding me? Most people don't see that in a year. We are a society of entitlement here. And it's sad. It's depressing. It really is. And people like me are punished because we speak truth. I don't care. I told God this. This doesn't mean man can do anything he wants to me. But I told God that I would go through just about anything if he would use my story for good to help people. Because I don't know how to get it out there. I don't know. I used to have connections, and even those connections at this point wouldn't do me any good. This is bigger than all of us. And it's a complex problem because it's in every family. In every family, you literally have a criminal, a Christian, someone of darkness, black sheep, and a scapegoat. Every family has one of those, at least. And most of the people that I find that come to the channel, or that, you know, we kind of bring along with us, most of us are the black sheep scapegoats of our family. They blame everything on us that goes wrong. We are just that one. But I think it's created in us character and heart that very few people have today. And I'm asking you, I'm appealing to the heart in all of you. We all have a responsibility. We are all alive on this plane right now at this time. And trafficking, the selling of humans, and basically just going against natural law and in someone's consent is a big, big problem. And I don't care how many loopholes you have. I don't care who you actually told, because you're not telling their conscious brain. These messages are getting to the subconscious through symbols. That's how I woke up. I'm like, man, my family literally wants to kill me. That's the only symbols I'm seeing anymore. They want me dead. And they almost succeeded. Couple times. Obviously, God has different plans. And I honestly can't wait until death is gotten rid of. Because once that happens, people will have to live with each other. We'll have to get along. If death is no more, if we can't die, a lot of the suffering would go away too. Most people do things in this world because of the fear of dying. That's how they manipulated everybody with the CV and the lockdowns and all that stuff. The fear of dying. That is the biggest fear supplier of this realm, is the fear of death. So I have to ask, is it even real? Is it what we think it is? I don't think so. Because I think that if they could have gotten rid of all the Christians by now, they would have done that. Not even just independent thinkers, right? People who know their own sovereignty. People who understand that their rights and privileges don't come from a piece of paper, but from their maker. They would get rid of all of us if they could. It would have been done by now. But they can't, right? Why is that? So the most they can do is manipulate our minds. The battleground is your mind. But you got to have heart too. You have to have heart behind that mind, right? And I know this is a weird video, and I know it's not as organized as maybe it should be. But again, I'm trying to show you the similarities in these things. And I'm trying to warn you to be very careful about who you let in your life, who you let in your home. I would not be inviting anyone new into my home or dwelling place at this point, because everything has taken on stronger meaning, like to the nth degree. So if you invite the wrong type of person into your home, you're inviting the wrong type of spirit in your home. And just because that person leaves doesn't mean that spirit will leave. Do you understand what I'm saying there? I hope so. Twilight anesthesia is applied to various types of medical procedures and surgeries. It's a popular choice among surgeons and doctors who are performing anything from minor plastic surgeries to dental work and procedures that do not require extensive operations or long durations, in favor of less nausea and a limited recovery period after surgery. Twilight anesthesia is used for ambulatory surgical centers, cosmetic surgeons, dentists, dermatologists. Why would they have it? Emergency physicians. Now, this is key here. We want to know the people who could get their hands on these types of drugs, okay? Endodontists, ENT, ear, nose, and throat surgeons. That's when I had my sinus surgery. General surgeons, gastroenterology, gynecologists, MRI centers, which is really big there. We got to talk about ink too, but that might be a different video. Neurologists, neurosurgeons, ophthalmologists, oral surgeons, orthopedic surgeons, pediatric dentists, periodontists, plastic surgeons, podiatrists, and foot surgeons. That's different. Oh, gee, look, it's right there. Psychiatrists. Wait a second. Back up. I thought they said this was used for surgery. Psychiatrists don't perform surgery, do they? So why are they on the list? Why would they have access to drugs like this that have to be administered via an IV? So at the very least, you have to have had medical assistant training and or training in phlebotomy. Jack, what is the matter? Stop it. I'm sorry, my old dog is like very uncomfortable all the time anymore, and he's become kind of like a baby again. And that happens with old people too. If you've had old people in your life, they kind of regress back to being little children again, which is cool in a way for them, you know, because they don't really know what's going on, but it's not always good for those of us who are caring for them. Here, have some water and stop fussing. That's enough. I don't know what he needs. He just whines a lot. I was talking to a neighbor gone by the other day, and I guess hers do the same thing, though. Here, now that is enough. I don't want to hear no more of your fussing. You're ruining Sammy's nap time, and I won't be happy with you. I'm sorry. Yet again, I'm not an actress. Okay, so we see right there that psychiatrists can get their hands on this. Why is that? I want to see, does it actually tell us? Is a physician who specializes in psychiatry. Da-da-da-da. I'm just going to skim this real quick because I want to see. Sometimes a psychiatrist works within a multidisciplinary team, which may comprise clinical psychologists, social workers, occupational therapists, and nursing staff. You know, one day I went to my counselor, the counselor that woman from my past suggested that I go to here in town. And my lawyer said, yeah, it's a good idea. Even if that's not why you're on disability, it's good to let them know, you know, how much your life has changed because of what you're going through. Yada, yada, yada. It's a nice house fixed up as a counseling office or whatever. And I was always on the second floor because that's where his office was. One day there was a woman in the office across from us. And I'm like, what is she doing here? I feel uncomfortable talking because the doors aren't very thick. Oh, don't worry about her. She's just taking her notes over there. And then I looked up and he said, Jen, you've been in the office for over an hour now. And I said, what? And I looked around and I freaked out and I left and I never went back. These things should not be allowed to happen. Just because I have no family, I'm an easy mark. They feel like they can do whatever they want to me because there's no one left who cares about me. I tell you these stories because I want to warn you. The men should be watching out for their wives and their daughters. Specifically, brothers should be watching out for their sisters. Mothers should always be watching out for their children, no matter how old they are. We have to be our own advocates in life for our health care and for our rights, our human rights. We have to be our own best friend. We have to be our advocate. And I really don't like that this says that psychiatrists can get their hands on this stuff. Because that does not seem okay to me. So, my theory is absolutely plausible that the psychiatric industry is involved in this alien conspiracy and deception. And, you know, they would show you at some alien abduction shows or documentaries, oh, I was chipped. Why are they doing this? Why are they taking us? Why are they doing this, that, and the other with us? Maybe they're just testing out their tracking system. Maybe they were trying different chips on different people. And I bet that if you interviewed almost everybody in the United States at this point has had an alien abduction occurrence, a general surgery, or lost time. At least within the last 5 years, I bet you it's almost every citizen of the United States at this point. How does my husband know things I say and do when he's not around? And you know what abusers do, and this is really messed up? They don't come right out and threaten you. They'll just let you know that they're watching you. And I always use the eggplant one. I was talking to somebody about eggplant and how hadn't had it in a while and I really wanted some. And that night, the spouse comes home and says, oh yeah, I got some eggplant. Figured something different might be good. That's what they do. That's how abusers and narcissistic people work. They give you these hidden innuendos, these veiled threats, so you know that you're under surveillance and they're watching you. There's nothing you can do about it because who's going to believe you anyway? They're shaming people into silence. But I would be willing to bet that almost every citizen at this point has either lost time experience, an alien abduction experience, or at the very least, some type of general surgery in the last 5 years. Almost everybody I know has had something done. When most people were locked down, there was a lot of surgeries being done too during CV. Look at all your big YouTubers, man. Most of them went out for some type of surgery. Ask yourself why. We got to start putting these things together. Well, my job, my car, my house. You know that it's true what Schwab says. And just let me play this out for a second. Don't get mad and stop the video. Just listen to me make this point. And if you disagree, that's fine. But you can't very well say that you disagree with somebody when you've never heard them out, right? So again, let's be wise in our interactions with each other. I'm really tired of the trolls and the lower level mentality that they have. They're not smart. Gaslighting has become very obvious. They have the dumbest. They throw insults and call you names. Like it's really like dealing with a fifth grader, a mean, nasty bully fifth grader. Is that all we have in our society anymore? Is people that are that way? But yes, I kind of agree with Schwab when he says you'll own nothing and be happy. Why is that? Number one, if you're actually a Christ follower, we're not supposed to have possessions. They're not supposed to be important to us. I don't want to own a house. I don't want to own a boat. That's just more stuff that the system can hold over your head and take away from you. If I don't have it, they can't take it, right? So I won't know what I lost. But also, I can't be blackmailed that way. I can't be managed that way. Right now, they're managing me, keeping me in this area through love. That's not going to last very much longer. Because if love isn't reciprocated, it doesn't mean I don't love you. It just means I'm not going to be in your life anymore. If it's not reciprocated, I'm not going to force myself on somebody, right? We have to start operating differently, and that takes effort. It really does. I've had to change the way my brain thinks about things, and I constantly have to examine my own conscience to say, okay, am I in the right lane here? Am I in the right space here? Am I thinking the right way? When you own a lot of possessions, when you have a lot of things and stuff, that's just more that can be taken away from you. If you don't have those things, they can't control you. The system cannot control you if you don't have things like that are quote unquote important to you. Just like Tate. You really think that guy was arrested? They want you to think that. They want you to think that the system's after him. Do you see how he lives? Do you see the coverage the dude gets? He's not an enemy of the system. He's an agent for the system. We have to be aware of this. People that are popular in this realm are not popular by chance. Things that trend do not trend naturally. How a trend should work? Like say I start wearing teal like I did, and then you see it everywhere. Teal, 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 teal. That's how something should trend. How it actually trends on the internet? Because they put it in your feed and they suggest it to everybody because they want it to trend and be seen. It's the opposite of how it should happen. Everything in this system is that way. If you want to know what's really going on in the world, look to nature. Look to your plants. Are they healthy? Are they thriving? Is this really some wildfire smoke that we're getting down here? Is that really what's causing this? It's only been the last couple of years. I think it's something entirely different. I'm not going to speak on what I think it is because that's a whole nother can of worms that I really don't want to open right now with people. But I don't think it's wildfires. Not at all. It would be more consistent. It wouldn't just be kind of random like it is. Obviously, it has something to do with the environment, though, because it's only in certain times of the year. But I don't think it's wildfires from Canada. Not all the way down here in Ohio. I'm sorry. By the time something hits the Lake Erie, it breaks up. That's why you don't really have tornadoes and stuff. Like if you have a storm warning, they'll usually break up over the lakes. Anything that comes our way kind of, what do I want to say, decreases by the time it gets to us. But that hasn't been the case with this smoke. And yeah, it's just not, something doesn't ring true with that with me. So the system will try to use popular people to impress upon us what we should be doing or what they want us to do. Things that trend don't trend because they're good for you. Anything that trends in this world, you kind of want to run the other way. If it's popular here, you don't want to give it your time. Like I said, Andrew Tate and them, all them people getting arrested, that's a Masonic initiation. That is part of the initiation process. What they actually do in jail, I don't know. But most jails and prisons, and we're going to look at this in another video, are privately owned. Did you know that? They're privately owned. They're businesses. It's not really a detention center where you go and get punished. Or at least maybe it is for regular people, but not for those rich people. That's not what they go there to do. What better place to do your wickedness and your deeds, though? Right? In a place where there is high security. People don't just get in there. You got to like be allowed in, and you have to write your name down and all this type of stuff. You get away for 3 days. I think that's the initiation process. I think it takes 3 days to do whatever it is they do. And again, I'm not saying that whole group is bad because I don't know that. But I know that there is wickedness and corruption in the hearts of men. And the only way we're going to fix it is by exposing the things that happen. Now, did I really meet a fallen angel? I don't know. Did he just tell me that because it was my paradigm? Probably. Maybe. But the way things have happened in reverse, nobody else could do that. And I want to end this by saying something to you guys. And I did this in a post. I don't know if everybody saw it. But no man can see the face of God and live. Moses got the closest of regular human beings, right? He got the severe burn on his face because he sat with God. But no man can look God full on in the face and live. You would perish. And I think scientifically it has a lot to do with radiation, but we're not going to get into that right now. For a long time, I blamed this demonic entity and energy being in my life. I blamed it on other people, my own actions. But I've come to discover it was God. God is in control of the demons. He will not let them near you if you're walking and talking the way that you're supposed to be. But if he takes down your wall of protection and he allows those things to touch you and he allows you to see them, it's because you can't see him and live. God wants you to know that he's there and he's real and he loves you. That's why he shows us the demons. Because if he showed us himself, we would perish. So instead, he shows us the opposite. And what happened with me is probably what should happen with most people. I said, oh my God, demons are real. That means God is real too. I am running back to God. He allows us to see those things to let us know we're loved. And I know it sounds weird. And I know you're like, man, but demons, they torment us. They give us a hard time. They influence us, all these things. Yeah, they do. But that's what they do. That's the nature of them. That's why they exist. That is their nature. And God uses them to show us that the opposite is true. That there is light, and that there is love, and that there is truth, and that we are loved by our Maker. And the place we were meant to dwell is in the garden. That's where we're supposed to be. Don't you see the weird trend in people wanting you to believe in reincarnation right now? People wanting you to consent and believe in certain things. Why does somebody else care what you believe? Because it will affect them. It seems like majority rules here in a way, like when you're on the earth plane. And you have to ask yourself, why is somebody else so concerned with what I believe in spiritually? Why does that one person get so mad that I don't see the Mandela effect the same as him? Why do they get so angry? Because we're not buying into the deceptions. That's why. It's very simple. They're out to deceive, and a lot of us are done falling for it. And that's why I do what I do. So, I proved out my theory that psychiatrists absolutely could be involved with this false memory thing and or with the quote-unquote alien abductions. And I've also told you that these people who talk about probes and whatnot, that sounds like straight up satanic, what do I want to say here? Non-consensual sexual interaction. That's what that sounds like. It's not because aliens want to know what's going on up there. It's because it's wicked. It's because they want to get people. And here's the thing. A lot of these people that this happened to in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and I know this is true too, and I don't know how I know it, but I just do. There was something done to them so that at this time they would be quote unquote activated. Something was attached to them during the abduction experience. Because remember, most people that go through that, they're not Christian. They don't have the protection, and I'm sorry, it's just true. They don't have the protection of God at that time. So they're able to have these things attached to them. One of my 3 experiences that I had was very much like the seal. I felt like they were looking for the seal when I actually rose above my house and it got real supernatural there. Not the other 2 times when it was just people or whatever was going on. A lot of us are being seriously misused, seriously abused, seriously mishandled. And if everyone thinks, well, that's you, it's not me, and you're far away from me, and I don't know you, so it doesn't affect me, that's wrong. Wrong thinking. It will affect every one of us in our lifetime, in this generation. If you can't feel it or sense it, I am sorry, but it's here and it's coming. This is why, oh, that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. I am so happy that this became one of the things. We were the first channel to talk about this on the Brie and Jen channel. We were the first channel to talk about this. And I actually saw somebody on QAura. He says he's been a cultist for over 20 years and he's never heard of the law of reversal or retrocausality. Yeah, that's a deceiver there too. And I can't believe most people fall for this. Even these troll people. Like, are we really going to let these lower level intelligence people run us? I'm sorry. I'm not sorry that I have some intelligence and grit about me. That's how I was raised. We need to be our own advocates in this stuff. Retrocausality, basically, backwards causation, is a concept of cause and effect in which an effect precedes its cause in time until a later event affects an earlier one. There's an example of this in Alice in Wonderland. I did not know it until recently. I think I mentioned it in the last live. She meets the White Queen. Her finger starts bleeding and she says, oh my, I pricked it with a needle. And Alice says, no, you did. You're just standing there. And she says, no, I must do it later because I'm bleeding now. That's how my life has always been, but it really amped up in 2018. For whatever reason, I see God is working backwards. But again, this place is a reflection of the spiritual. So things here are inverted compared to the spiritual. That's why when when demonic or angelic entities are involved in a thing, you will often see it working backwards. Again, the counterfeit looks very much like the real thing, but it's not. So that's why you have to always understand there's 2 elements at work here. This is a binary system. Good, evil, light, darkness. Okay? And again, all these terms that are coming out, you got to pay attention to the wordings that they're using and don't get so disgusted by the agenda because, again, I think we have beings here trying to help us, but they're not like us. They can't really pass it being human because they don't know how to do it. And that's why some people are looking very strange right now because they're not doing things that we're used to. They're not talking in ways that we're used to because they're not used to being human. I know that sounds weird. People are going to be like, man, she's crazy. I don't care though. Just because some troll on YouTube calls me crazy and says that I need to see a shrink or whatever, I thought we're not supposed to be giving out medical advice. Aren't those the same people that told us not to be giving out medical advice? You have to start using their own tenets and words against them. And they don't like to apologize and they will never say they're wrong. When I apologize around these beings, they hate it. They want me to stop apologizing. I'm like, no, we're supposed to apologize when we do something wrong. Because that reminds them that they're unrepentant. Do you see where all this is coming from? This is God letting us know, hey, I'm here, I love you. This is some of his angels saying, we got your back. Don't worry, we're here. It might look weird to us because we're not used to it, but we do have help here. But they talk a little different, they look a little different, and because something means sex to us, it might not mean that to them. And I'm trying to be very delicate in talking about a certain sect of the rainbow hijacking community. Again, it's not just regular folks who love each other. That's not for me to judge. I'm not God. I'm not going to judge. And I know that a lot of pastors and Christians out there disagree with me. I say in general, the whole how distracted our whole society is by the carnal, by the flesh, there's something wrong there. If your identity is wrapped up in your sensuality, there's something wrong there. That should not be your identity. Your identity should be your spirit. Your character is a part of your spirit, your personality that God gave you. So retrocausality, this is why I believe we're seeing a lot of the things that we're seeing now. We're seeing symptoms of the initial problem. I think something big happens to all of humanity. And right now we're dealing with, what do they call that in a fire? The backdraft? The flashback? That's what we're dealing with now. The event hasn't even occurred yet in our time for us, but in the spirit, there is no time. Everything has already happened, and nothing has happened. It's very zen if you think about it. That's why people like me do this. I don't care how many subs I have. I just don't. Because you're people to me. You're my brothers, my sisters. And I love you. And I don't want to see, I love society. I love America. I love our world. And I love all people. I'm just that way. And it is disturbing because I've not met anyone else in a very long time who loves. And I don't mean loves a person, loves a thing. I mean loves at all. I mean, these people, the ones who have lost their conscience, the ones whose conscience has been seared, they think they're fooling people. But those of us who still have our real hearts, and those of us who are repenting of certain things, it's very easy to spot the fakes out there. Very easy. And yes, it can be disturbing when you realize, oh my gosh, my own loved ones are wrapped up in this garbage. I think something very big is about to happen to humanity. And I think we're going to need each other to help each other through it. And I think the worst thing that we could do at this point is to give up or lie down or say it's too hard or too difficult. I don't want to change this. I can't do anything. I'm just one person. Stop that defeatist talk. You've already lost if you're talking that way. I don't know what the magic words are to say to wake people up again. I don't know what will instill conscience in people again. And I mean conscience, not consciousness. I mean the thing, God's voice that tells you, yes, do this, or no, don't do that, it's wrong. Your little Jiminy Cricket, JC within. Ha ha. The comments must have been shut off because they just like quit working. I love you guys. I love the time we spend together. I love our fellowship. Some of you have been with me since the very beginning, and it's awesome. I just pray that in some way, shape, or form, the channel and the content we cover has influenced somebody to do something and to stand firm in truth and love and, yes, justice, real justice. I'm not talking about this system. I'm not talking about harming anyone. I'm talking about God's justice. You can't escape it. It's not going to happen. That's how lost these people are. They literally think they can fool their maker. It can't be done. That's how lost people are. Go out there today and do something about it. Show love. Get a homeless man a blanket, a coat, a pair of socks. Fill a little baggie for someone you know is having a hard time. Give them a gift card, a card, just to let them know you're thinking of them. Put a card in some random stranger's mailbox. Do something today. Selfless. For somebody else. If you take nothing away from this channel, I hope you take that. And of course, my love. I love you guys. I'll be doing some short uploads as well. There's a few things I want to cover. One of them has to do with this medical stuff, and it is, it's black goo related. It's octopus ink. I had forgotten, but that's what they put inside of you when you get a scan, a CAT scan. And that has a lot to do with this black goo factor. Be very careful of what you're letting into your eye gates, your ear gates, and what you're putting in your body. Please be very careful. Pray over your food. And if you get a chance, shoot up a prayer for me and Samson, because I'm always praying for all of you guys. And yeah, work's gotten weird already, and I know the score, but I'm not going anywhere unless God leads me somewhere else. And I'm certainly not leaving the planet. I do not have a death wish. I love you guys.